Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Bookers and Books. In this video, I'm going to talk about some fiction that I've read recently. Recently being the last 2 or 3 months, during the time when I wasn't filming many videos. And it's not going to be all the fiction that I read, it's going to be just the literary fiction, if I can call it that, as opposed to genre fiction like mysteries and romance that are more feel-good kind of things. And I don't want this video to be too long, so I decided to split it in, like, instead of talking about all the books that I read during that time, I'm just going to make little groups like this. So this is going to be the group of literary fiction. So literary fiction. All of my books are in French. Some of them are not even available in English, but some of them are. So anyway, I'm going to show you the books. So the first one in this pile, the first one that I happen to read is The Order of the Day by Eric Vuillard. Now this one is in French, and as you can see by the red band, it won the Prix Goncourt. So that is the highest prize, literary prize in French literature. And I don't get it. I don't get the greatness of this book at all. So this is a slim, flimsy little thing. It has 150 pages, and it is a historical novel. And please hear the air quotes for novel. The author invented nothing. So this covers the years from 1933 to 1938, so basically the rise to power of Nazi Germany. It starts with a meeting in February 1933 where the Nazi party conveys industrialists from Germany, from all over Germany, of various fields of industry, like pharmaceutical giants or automobile giants and armament giants like Krupp. And anyway, and basically they tell these industrialists that the Nazis have great plans for Germany. We just need some money and your cooperation. And apparently these men think, yeah, the Nazis know what they're doing. We'll support them. And from then on, the author just talks about various events, like then the burning down of the Reichstag, and then I don't know. I don't know in which order they happen, all the way to the Anschluss in 1938. And there's no characters, there's no dialogues, there's no character arc, there's nothing. It's just a series of events. So we have a fact here, something happened then, and then there was this, and then there was this, and then there was this, and then you have a few, one short, very short, like a sentence or two of thinking, of philosophical discussion or philosophical thinking, a question mark for history, and then we have another event, another event, another event. I don't get it. Who's going to read that in 50 years or in 100 years? Absolutely nobody. If you want to read about Nazi Germany, either you will want to read fiction or nonfiction. If you go for nonfiction, you'll pick something much more solid than this, that has a lot more details and sources, and that gives a lot more explanations. And if you want fiction, you'll pick something that has characters, something that has movement, something that is not this. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't see where is the Goncourt material in this. So yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get it. So next book. Next book. The next book, in a way, is a bit similar. It's a historical novel, and again, it's about the years between the two world wars. And it's set on the wrong side of history. It is about Mussolini. So this is M, Son of the Century by Antonio Scurati. It is the first book in a series of 4. Now this one is not a slim, flimsy little thing. It is a big book. It is over 800 pages. There's content in there. There's material in there. And obviously the author did a lot of research. He was very thorough in his research, and the result is impressive. Did I enjoy reading the book, though? It's a different question, and I'm not entirely sure. The actual reading of the book for long stretches for long stretches, it was very interesting. However, sometimes I sort of needed to push myself to finish it. Just keeping myself, I had to keep telling myself to continue reading the book, that the reward would be at the end. I had confidence that the reading of the book would be rewarding, but while reading it, it required a bit of an effort. So again, this is the type of book where the author, a novelist, so this is a novel, there's no question that it's a novel, but the author invents nothing. There are very few lines of dialogue, and I am sure that they come from a police report or a memoir of someone, or from letters saying, oh, I saw that person, I told him that, and he told me this, and then I said that, and then he told me this, and that's the dialogue that we'll have. And so that it's a bit, I'm tempted to say dry. It is so systematic. A bit of context, I guess. So this is about Mussolini. It's not a biography. It starts in 1919. So after World War I, Mussolini was a journalist and he was a communist. However, he fell out with his fellow communists and he was expelled by the party, and he started what was called the I read it in French now, so I don't have the words in English. Les faisceaux, whatever the term is that gave the word fascist. So he created this organization that was meant to be political, and that attracted a lot of former soldiers, because Italy felt stabbed in the back quite a bit by World War I, because they were on the side of the Allies. They were on the side of France and Britain and Russia. So in theory, they won. However, they did not get all the territory that they wanted because of President Wilson's notions of nation states. A lot of states in the Balkan became independent. So Croatia got some bits of land that Italy thought should be theirs. And there was a lot of bitterness towards the results of World War I. So a lot of former soldiers ended up in this organization of Mussolini, and this goes step by step by step by step, like really, really precise, and shows the rise to power of Mussolini. So it covers the year 1919 to 1925, and that is the rise to power of Mussolini. The second book covers from 1925 to 1938, and then the last two books, I don't know exactly where the split is, but the last two books cover from 1938 to the death of Mussolini in 1943 or 4? 3. 1943, yeah. I never know. Anyway, and that's the thing. I would be interested in reading these last two books, but the big one in the middle, so this one is, as I said, 800 pages. And the next one is also 800 pages, and 800 pages of Mussolini staying in power. What is it going to be? There's a lot of violence in this book. People getting beaten up, because that is the way Mussolini got to power. It's by beating up a lot of people, by having people tracked and murdered. And it's a very violent government. So I'm not sure that I want to read a lot about that. So, as I said, while reading the book, I don't know if I enjoyed it enormously. But I think the value of this book will be in the long term. I'm going to wait before I read the second one. If I read the second one, I may jump to the third. It's going to depend on how long and how the book stays with me. Because I finished this a couple of weeks ago already, and I'm still thinking about it, as opposed to the other one here, that after a week after having read it, I forgot about it. I mean, I don't get that one. But Mussolini, that one I understood. I can see the enormous amount of work that goes in there. I can see the craft. I can see that this is a great book. And it's going to depend on how it stays with me. If I'm still thinking about it 3 months from now, that means it's a great book, and I will probably want to read the second book. So at the moment, I'll just take a little break from the series, and I'm just going to say that it is a great book, and if you love history, you're going to love this book. So by Antonio Scurati, it definitely is a great book, though I'm not sure if the reading of it is a fun experience. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing. Next, well, the next two books, I'm going to treat them together because they are by the same author and they have the same problem for you, which is that they are not translated in English. So these two books are by the author Edgar Hilsenrath. I saw this book at the library, so this is a library copy, and it was not on the bookshelves. Well, it was on the bookshelves, like it was not on the shelves, it was on top of the bookcase, just facing people and just basically saying, read me, read me, read me. And as soon as I saw the cover, I recognized it because I have a book by Hilsenrath. It's just right up there, like the purple, yellow, and black, like that spine. That is The Nazi and the Barber, which is a wonderful book. I read it years ago, and I still remember it quite well. It is very unique. It has a style. And as soon as I saw the cover, the style of Hilsenrath just came to mind. And I thought, oh, I want to read it. I want to read some Hilsenrath. So I just picked the book up. And I read it, and it was good, and I was not quite satisfied. So then I tried to find some more Hilsenrath. So I went to the bookstore, and that is the only one that they had. So this one is Satires. So that title in English, I suppose, if it was translated, would be Satires, and this one translates as short stories, which is a very boring title because the original German title is, and I'll apologize in advance for my German, it is Sie trommelten mit den Fäusten im Takt. So that would mean apparently they were banging their fists in rhythm, something like that, which is a lot more evocative than short stories. And in that little bit that I've just looked at, they explain why they went for that title. They say that the title short stories is more encompassing of the variety of writings that we have in this collection than the other title, which would be just too specific to one of the short stories. However, I think short stories is a bit misleading because some of it is nonfiction. At least one of them is a letter that Hilsenrath wrote to a newspaper, I think, or a magazine, or I forget. So one of them is actually signed by Hilsenrath. And there's a couple of other short writings. It's not clear whether they are nonfiction or not. They are so clearly based on the experience of Hilsenrath that I think that they are nonfiction. However, they are not marked as such, so I guess you could consider that not everything in it is true, that you have to sift between what is reality and what is just based on reality. But it was really good. I really liked it. And the other one, Satires, I don't know, I liked it a bit. I don't know, did I like it less or more? I think it's about the same. But this one is entirely fiction. And it features the character called, gosh, I forgot it, Zibulski. However, the Zibulski is not the same in every little snippet because this is also a collection of short writings. So Zibulski is this average person, this Mr. or Mrs. Everyone that could be either a doctor or a worker or an American or a German, or it could be anyone. And both of these collection of short writings are based on the life of Hilsenrath. So it is not autofiction, it is clearly fiction. When it's fiction, it's fiction. However, it is nevertheless based on his experience as somebody who survived the Shoah and somebody who moved quite a bit to try to find some peace. So in a nutshell, the life of Hilsenrath was, he was born in Germany and raised in Germany. When he was about 14 or 15 years old, that was in 1938, his father saw the wind, where the wind was going, and he decided that his family would be safer in Romania. So because his wife, so Hilsenrath's mother, was from Romania, so they went to live with their grandparents. Not all the family, just Hilsenrath, his brother, and his mother. They went to live in Romania while his father stayed back in Germany. And then war happened, and then they lost track, like Hilsenrath lost track of his father, and with his brother and mother, he was eventually deported to a ghetto in Ukraine that was administered by Romania, because Romania was allied with the Nazis during World War II. And the ghetto was liberated in 1944. So he didn't go to Auschwitz or to some other camp. He stayed in the ghetto until the end of the, well, not quite the end of the war, until it was liberated in 1944. And he lied about his age, because if he had told his true age, he would have been conscripted in the Red Army, and he didn't want to do that. He had seen enough of death. He wanted to live, so he lied about his age. He managed to get false papers, and with the help of an organization, he ended up going to Palestine, where he stayed for a number of years. And same thing, I think he was, I don't remember, well, it's not quite told in the book. That's something I found on the internet. I Googled it. And then I think he was alone in Palestine. I don't think he was with his family. And then in 1948, he found out that his father had survived. He had managed to flee to France in time and live in hiding in France. So either with false papers or because he was literally hiding. I don't know exactly. So he lived with his father for a little while, but then again, he hadn't seen his father in 10 years. The last time he had seen him, he was 14 or 15 years old, and 10 years later, he was a grown man. So relations never really got back to what they should have been. And eventually he moved to New York City, but then again, he was always haunted by the show and by what he had lived and seen. And he started to write, and he wanted to be a writer, and he wrote in German because it was his mother tongue, even though he could write in other languages, in English, because that's where that's where he was living in the United States. I think he spoke Yiddish too, and probably learned some Romanian or some other language, like when he was there. But he chose to write in German because that was the language that he felt comfortable with. That was his language, even though Germany had rejected him at the time. For him, he was German. And then eventually he moved to Berlin, and that is where he found that he was the most comfortable. So Berlin in the 1970s, so Berlin that was split in two, and for some reason that, not that the split appealed to him, but the atmosphere in West Berlin was the type of atmosphere that suited him. So that's where he stayed until the rest of his life. And he had difficulty getting published in German because the way he talked about the Shoah was not the way that was expected. His writing, there's a streak of dark humor in his writing, a lot of satire, and his characters are sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes some of them are over the top. So for example, in The Nazi and the Barber, the main character is a Nazi. It's a Nazi named Max Schultz, who grew up with in a very chaotic household. His stepfather beat him and sexually assaulted him, and the only kind people in his life were the neighbors. So his friend Finkelstein and his father, who was a barber, and they were Jewish. And when the Nazis came to power, Max Schultz decided to take all his frustration and put it to good work, and he became an SS. And he worked as an SS in concentration camps, and he oversaw the death of his good friend Finkelstein and their family, and his family. And at the end of the war, he decided, okay, I need to survive, and he took the identity of his dead friend. So he became the son of a barber. So he became a Jew who advocated for Israel, who denounced the Shoah, who denounced all of that. So it's quite dark. So you have a Nazi who very much enjoyed murdering people, who suddenly becomes a spokesperson for the people he oppressed. It's dark, it's twisted, and it was not to the taste of the of the people who were in charge of publishing novels in Germany at the time. That's not the tone with which the show should be talked about. So he ended up being published. However, it took a little while. So sometimes his books were published in translation before they were published in German. So The Nazi and the Barber is the basic example. It was published in English about, I think it was 1971, and the German original was published almost 10 years later. So these ones, however, are not translated in English. So these ones being the two that I'm holding here, they were not translated in English. As far as I know, I looked on Goodreads and there's only a German title and a French title. So apparently if you don't speak German or French, you cannot read these ones. In a way, I don't think it matters much. They are short writings. They're good. I like them. I'm thinking I might try to read all of the works of Hilsenrath because there's not that many. There's about 10. So that would mean that I have now read 1/3 of his work. But if you can get your hands on The Nazi and the Barber, that one is absolutely worth it. It's really, really good. So anyway, so enough about Mr. Hilsenrath. The last book that I'm going to talk about is a Canadian book, a French-Canadian book. So this one is, in French, L'Obomsawin by Daniel Poliquin. In English, the title is Obomsawin of Sioux Junction. And this is the story of a city, in fact, of a small town in Northern Ontario. Northern Ontario being anything north of the Great Lakes, basically. Yeah, an hour north of Toronto, I think you're starting to be in a Northern Ontario. So think forest, just forest, lakes and rivers and forest and more forest and lakes and rivers and forest and forest and forest. So you can drive miles and miles and miles and miles between two towns and between two cities. And these towns live almost exclusively on the exploitation of natural resources. So either there's a mine somewhere, so either it's a mining town, or they live off the forest, so it's a forest town. It's from companies cutting wood. And so this is the type of little town where the Obomsawin is. And at the beginning of the book, he's arrested because he's just he just burned down his house. And that's a crime, so he's arrested. And then there will be a trial, and people from outside the city has to come for the trial. And this little town that was dying is suddenly brought back to life because of the trial. And this trial is sort of the excuse to tell the story of the city from its origins in the 19th century to about 100 years later in the 20th century, in the 1980s, where this city is just dying. And yeah, so I thought it was super interesting. Again, Daniel Poliquin is another one that has a particular type of tone. It's not as dark. It's not dark like Hilsenrath, but there's a lot of satire in there too, and there's a lot of humor. And I really like the writings of Daniel Poliquin. He's from Ottawa, so for me, it's a very local author. And I suppose his books probably are not available outside of Canada, but anyway, it exists, so perhaps you can order it if you're interested from some Canadian bookstore online. So with that, I'm going to stop talking because I think the sun is up now. The sun has risen. I forget, did I mention this at the beginning of the video? I got up at 5:30 this morning because my little dog wanted to go for a walk. And I went for a walk at 5:40 because I needed 10 minutes to get up. And then my dog is now sleeping on my lap, and I decided to film a video. So that's the situation, and I think the sun is up now, and I'm going to have some breakfast because now I'm a bit hungry. Though I don't want to wake up my dog. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Anyway, that's going to be my problem, or my little dog's problem. And thank you everyone for watching. So I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!